They texted you good morning before you were even awake. They remembered everything. The name of your childhood dog, the coffee order you mentioned once 3 weeks ago. They said you were different, special, that they'd never connected with anyone like this before. And it felt true. It felt more true than anything had felt in a long time. So why weeks later, maybe months, are you sitting somewhere quiet, replaying every conversation, trying to figure out what actually happened? Here's the uncomfortable answer. What you experienced at the beginning wasn't connection. It was a campaign, not necessarily a conscious one, not always calculated, but a pattern so specific, so consistent, that psychologists gave it a name decades ago: love bombing. And the reason it works, the reason it worked on you, if it did, isn't because you were naive. It's because it was designed to feel exactly like the real thing. By the end of this video, you'll know the 5 stages it follows almost every single time. You'll know the 3 early signals that separate genuine intensity from manufactured closeness. And you'll know them early enough to actually matter, not 3 months later, in hindsight, when the damage is already done. Before we go further, one thing needs to be said clearly. Not everyone who does this is a predator. Some people love bomb consciously, deliberately, with full awareness of exactly what they're doing and why. But many don't. Some people learn this pattern the way most of us learned our worst habits, from the relationships that shaped them before they were old enough to question them. From environments where love was conditional, where affection had to be performed rather than given freely, where intensity was the only language available. That doesn't make the impact on you any less real. Your confusion is real. Your attachment is real. The way your nervous system learned to respond to this person, that's real too. And here's what matters most right now. Understanding love bombing isn't about deciding whether someone is a good or bad person. It's about understanding a pattern. Because patterns don't care about intent. They just repeat. In the moment you can name what's happening while it's happening, not months later, is the moment it loses most of its power over you. That's what the next 13 minutes are for. Stage 1. The overwhelm. It starts before you're ready for it, not gradually, not the way real connection usually builds, slowly, over shared experiences, over time spent together that earns the closeness, all at once, a message before you wake up, a message when you go to sleep, constant contact that fills every gap in your day so completely that silence starts to feel like something's wrong. They want to see you, again, already, every day if possible. They tell you things, real things, vulnerable things, faster than anyone has ever told you anything. And because they're being that open, you open too. It feels like intimacy. It feels like trust being built. But intimacy built in days isn't intimacy. It's the performance of intimacy. And there's a difference, a crucial one, between connection that develops because 2 people have actually shown each other who they are over time, and connection that arrives fully formed, like something that was already decided before you had any say in it. The declarations come early. I've never felt this way before. I think you're the one. I've been looking for someone like you my whole life. And here's what makes stage 1 so effective. None of these things feel like red flags. They feel like answered prayers. They feel like finally. Your brain responds to this intensity the way it responds to any powerful reward, with dopamine, with attention, with a pull toward the source of that feeling that starts to organize everything else around it. That pull is real. But what created it, that's worth looking at more carefully. Because the overwhelming beginning isn't the relationship revealing itself. It's the trap being set. Stage 2. The isolation. This one arrives quietly. You almost don't notice it happening. That's the point. It doesn't look like control. It doesn't feel like control. It feels like devotion. I just want you all to myself tonight. Do you have to go? I feel like we never get enough time together. I don't know, your friend doesn't seem like they really have your best interests at heart. Each sentence, on its own, sounds like someone who cares deeply, someone who values you, someone who simply wants more of your time because being with you matters to them. But watch the pattern, not the individual moments. Your plans with friends start getting complicated. Not canceled dramatically, just complicated. A guilt trip here. a competing need there, a mood that shifts just slightly when you mention you're going out without them. And because you've already been flooded with warmth and intensity in stage 1, you've already learned something important about this relationship. Their happiness and your behavior are directly connected. When they're happy, everything is perfect. When something disrupts that, including your independence, things get harder. So you start adjusting, not because anyone told you to, because the path of least resistance leads back to the warmth. Your world quietly narrows. The circle of people you spend real time with gets smaller. The person who was supposed to be an addition to your life has started to become a replacement for it. And from the inside, it doesn't feel like isolation. It feels like closeness. That's what makes it so effective, and so hard to see until you're already inside it. Stage 3, the pedestal. Now watch this. You are not just liked, you are perfect. The most interesting person they've ever met. The most beautiful, the most intelligent, the most everything. Every story you tell lands perfectly. Every opinion you share is met with admiration. Every flaw you cautiously reveal gets reframed as something endearing, something that makes you even more remarkable than you already were. It feels incredible. Of course it does. Being truly seen, really seen, not just tolerated, is one of the deepest human needs there is. And this person seems to see you more completely, more generously, more enthusiastically than anyone ever has. But here's what's actually happening. They're not seeing you. They're building a version of you, an idealized projection that fits what they need you to be: perfectly responsive, perfectly devoted, perfectly grateful for the intensity of their attention. The real you, with your contradictions, your bad days, your ordinary moments, hasn't fully entered the picture yet. And the pedestal has a specific function beyond making you feel good. It creates debt, not financial debt, emotional debt. The quiet, unspoken sense that you owe something in return for being loved this extravagantly. That you need to live up to the version of you they've decided exists. And debt creates compliance. Because the moment you do something that doesn't fit the idealized version, the moment you're tired or distracted or just human, you'll feel it. Not in anything they say explicitly. In the temperature of the room. In the slight withdrawal of warmth. In the sudden sense that something you did wrong has cost you something, even though no one can quite say what. The pedestal was never built for you. It was built for them. Because what goes up on a pedestal can always be knocked off. In that moment, the first time the warmth cools, is exactly where stage 4 begins. Now watch stage 4, the first withdrawal. Something shifts. You might not even be able to name it at first. They're still there, still present, still saying the right things, mostly. But something is different. The good morning message arrives an hour later than usual, or doesn't arrive at all. The response to something you said is shorter than you've come to expect. The warmth that was constant, so constant you stopped noticing it, the way you stopped noticing air, is slightly, almost imperceptibly, cooler. And your nervous system notices immediately. Not your conscious mind, not your rational thoughts, your body. A low-level anxiety you can't quite locate. A restlessness. A pull toward your phone that you can't entirely explain. A quiet, persistent question running underneath everything else you're doing. Did I do something wrong? This is the moment the hook sets. Because here's what your brain has learned over the past weeks or months of stage 1, 2, and 3. This person is the source of something that feels essential. Their attention, their warmth, their intensity, your nervous system has organized itself around these things the way it organizes itself around food, or safety, or sleep. And now that source has been slightly, subtly reduced. So you do what any organism does when something essential becomes scarce. You move toward it. You reach out a little more. You're a little more available, a little more accommodating. You smooth over things you might otherwise have named. You swallow things you might otherwise have said. Not because you decided to, because the anxiety of the withdrawal is worse than the cost of adjusting. And here's the most important thing to understand about this stage. The withdrawal doesn't have to be dramatic to be effective. It doesn't have to be a fight, or a cold silence, or an explicit punishment. It just has to be noticeable enough that you feel it. Because the moment you feel it and change your behavior in response to it, the dynamic has fundamentally shifted. You are no longer two people discovering each other. You are someone managing another person's warmth. And that is a full-time job that never gets easier. And finally, stage 5, the cycle locks in. This is where it stops being a beginning and starts being a pattern. Because what just happened in stage 4 wasn't a one-time cooling. It wasn't a bad week. It wasn't the natural settling that happens in any relationship as the initial intensity finds its level. It was a test, not necessarily a conscious one, but a test nonetheless, and you passed it. You reached out, you adjusted, you moved toward the withdrawal instead of naming it, and the warmth came back, maybe not immediately, maybe not fully, but enough. Enough to confirm something important to the part of your brain that's been tracking this pattern. The way to get back to stage 1 is to need it less and give more. So the cycle establishes itself. Intensity, withdrawal. You chase. Warmth returns, intensity. Withdrawal. You chase. Warmth returns. Each loop tightens the attachment a little further. Each time you adjust your behavior to recover the warmth, you teach yourself that their emotional state is your responsibility. Each time the warmth returns after a withdrawal, your brain registers it as a reward, and rewards, after uncertainty, hit harder than rewards that arrive consistently. This is intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive, the same mechanism that makes certain phones impossible to put down. Variable rewards, rewards that arrive unpredictably after effort, create stronger behavioral patterns than consistent ones. Your brain doesn't just want the warmth. It becomes oriented around the pursuit of it. And this is the point where love bombing becomes something more than an overwhelming beginning. It becomes a structure. A structure where their needs, their moods, their emotional temperature set the terms of the relationship, and your job, whether you agreed to it or not, is to manage them. Your independence narrows further. Your self-trust quietly erodes. The version of you that existed before this relationship, the one with opinions and boundaries, and a life that didn't revolve around someone else's approval, starts to feel like a distant memory. Not because anything dramatic happened, but because 100 small adjustments, made in response to 100 small withdrawals, added up to someone you don't entirely recognize. Now that's the cycle. And the only way out of it is to see it clearly, honestly, without flinching for exactly what it is. None of this happened because you were weak. None of it happened because you were naive or desperate or lacking in self-awareness. It happened because your brain is working exactly the way it was designed to work. Here's the mechanism. In stage 1, the overwhelming intensity of attention and affection triggered a dopamine response. Dopamine is not, as most people assume, the pleasure chemical. It's the anticipation chemical, the wanting chemical. It fires not when you receive something good, but when your brain predicts something good is coming. Love bombing floods that system. Constant contact, constant validation, constant intensity, your brain registers this as a signal that something extraordinarily rewarding is present, and it begins organizing your attention and behavior around the source of that reward. This is normal. This is biology. This is not a flaw. But then stage 4 arrives. The withdrawal. And this is where the psychology becomes particularly important to understand. Because what happens next isn't rational, it's neurological. When a reward that your brain has come to expect suddenly becomes unpredictable, the dopamine response doesn't decrease, it increases. Your brain works harder to obtain the reward precisely because it's become uncertain. The pursuit intensifies, the attachment deepens. The anxiety of potential loss becomes a motivating force that overrides almost everything else. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, and it is, without exaggeration, one of the most powerful behavioral conditioning mechanisms ever studied. It's why people stay in relationships that make them miserable, not because they don't see the pattern, but because their nervous system has been conditioned to pursue the reward regardless of the cost. Knowing this doesn't make the feeling go away, but it does change what the feeling means. It means the attachment you feel isn't evidence that this relationship is right for you. It's evidence that your brain has been conditioned, And conditioning, unlike love, can be understood. And what can be understood can be unlearned. Here's the problem with everything we've just covered. In the moment, none of it feels like a warning. It feels like finally. So how do you tell the difference in real time, not in hindsight, between someone who is genuinely, intensely interested in you and someone whose intensity is serving a different purpose entirely? 3 tells, specific ones. Not they text too much or they move fast. Those aren't tells. Plenty of healthy relationships move fast. Plenty of genuinely interested people text constantly at the beginning. These are different. Tell number 1, the intensity is disproportionate to the actual time spent. Real connection builds on shared experience. It accumulates. It has a history, even a short one, that justifies the closeness. Love bombing skips that. The declarations of connection arrive before the connection has been earned. The intimacy is performed before it's established. They tell you that you're the most important person in their life before they actually know who you are. Ask yourself one question. Does the intensity match the amount of time we've actually spent together? Or does it feel like it arrived from somewhere else entirely, already fully formed? Tell number 2, your needs consistently disappear in the presence of their needs. In a healthy dynamic, 2 people's needs exist simultaneously. Sometimes one person's needs take precedence, sometimes the other's. The balance shifts, but the balance exists. In love bombing, one person's emotional state quietly becomes the organizing principle of the entire relationship. And it happens so gradually, you almost don't notice when your own needs stopped being part of the conversation. Pay attention to what happens when you have a bad day, when you need something, when you're not available or not warm or just tired. Does the space exist for that? Or does your unavailability immediately become about them? Tell number 3. You feel more anxious than you feel safe. This is the most reliable tell of all, and the one most people override because the anxiety feels like excitement, and excitement feels like chemistry, and chemistry feels like proof that something real is happening. But real connection, genuine, healthy, earned connection, produces a baseline of safety. Not the absence of butterflies, not the absence of excitement, but underneath the excitement, a steadiness, a sense that this person is consistent, that their warmth doesn't have conditions attached to it, that you don't have to manage their feelings to maintain access to them. Love bombing produces the opposite, a low-level vigilance that never fully quiets, a monitoring of their mood that becomes automatic, a relief when things are good that is slightly too intense because it's relief, not just happiness. Relief that the withdrawal hasn't come yet. If you feel more like you're managing something than experiencing something, that's not chemistry. That's conditioning already underway. So here's where we land. Love bombing isn't always a weapon someone picks up deliberately. Sometimes it's a pattern someone carries without knowing they carry it, learned in a childhood where love was conditional, where affection had to be performed, where intensity was the only currency that felt real. That doesn't make it safe to be on the receiving end of. But it does mean that recognizing it isn't about deciding someone is a monster. It's about deciding what you're willing to accept. And here's the most important thing this video can leave you with. The fact that you felt it, that the pull was real, that the attachment formed, that you adjusted yourself to maintain the warmth. None of that means something is wrong with you. It means something very specific happened to your nervous system. And your nervous system can learn something new. The first step is exactly what you've just done. You named it. You saw the 5 stages. You understood the mechanism. You know the 3 tells now, early enough to actually use them. Not just in hindsight. That awareness is not nothing. It's everything. Because you cannot protect yourself from something you cannot name. And now you can name it. If this video gave you something real, a word for something you've been carrying, a pattern you finally recognized, drop that one word in the comments. Just one. I read every single one, and I want to know what landed for you today. Subscribe if you want to keep going, because next week we're going somewhere that connects directly to everything we just covered. Because here's a question worth sitting with between now and then. Why did the love bombing work on you specifically? Not on everyone, on you. The answer has almost nothing to do with weakness, and almost everything to do with something that formed in you long before this relationship ever started. Next week, we're talking about attachment styles, the invisible blueprint most of us are running on without ever having chosen it. And once you see it, you'll understand not just why love bombing worked, but why you keep finding yourself in the same dynamics with different people again and again. That's next week. Don't miss it. I'll see you in the next one.